Hey, you guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven, accompanied by Queen Taylor. And today we're going to be taking a look at, looks like a conversation that Stephen Fry is having. And this is Stephen Fry on American versus British comedy.
This will be good.
This will be good. I don't know if you guys know this, but Taylor has been hot for Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie because of Blackadder. We've been doing a lot of content with them.
Yeah.
And so
Love him.
And there's been a lot of people asking us to check this out because it would be really insightful getting it from Stephen Fry.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like Hugh Laurie would be a better person to speak upon this because of his experience with House. 13 years doing House or 8.
Yeah, but Stephen Fry was in Bones.
Yeah, it's true. So but Bones isn't really a comedy. Well, neither is House, I guess.
Yeah, true.
So I'm curious to see why everyone wants us to listen to this. What are the differences? I think we already know.
We definitely know some.
We already know some of the differences in real life. I don't know if he's going to have some philosophical, like big brain, concept here.
Yeah.
But or maybe something very simple. But I think we, from a technical aspect, do kind of understand. And also the cultural differences between us, I think.
For sure.
But there's been a lot of people asking us to check this out. So we're here, you guys. I hope you enjoy. Let's hop on over and let's see what Stephen has to say about this topic.
We have time for one more question, which will come from the gentleman there.
You talk about the sense of humour, the American sense of humour, and you haven't mentioned so much the British sense of humour, but do you think they differ hugely? And if so, what accounts for that difference?
It's a really good point. I think, it strikes at the heart of what is American optimism is a really important thing, but not only optimism, but a refusal to see oneself in a bad light, or, one could talk about this for far too long, but if you go to an American bookshop, by far the biggest section is self-help and improvement. The idea that life is refinable and improvable, and that you can learn a technique for anything, whether it's lovemaking, being a businessman, a marriage, cooking, losing weight, whatever it is. There's an NLP way of doing it. There's an Anthony Robbins way of doing it. There's a things they didn't teach you at Harvard way of doing it. There's an unbelievable sense that life is improvable, that you can be lectured at, or indeed given a sermon at. It's the Protestant base of America, that things are done by text and by works, as opposed to by submission and by, a doctrine in the way that the higher church, European rump, we still believe. And there is a sense of original sin in Europe. I mean, this is a bizarre theory that I won't push to its limit, but when it comes to comedy, it's satisfactorily, I think, obvious that the American comic hero is a wisecracker who is above his material and who is above the idiots around him. And the British comic, put it this way, the American comic hero, like John Belushi or someone like that, that scene in Animal House where there's a fellow playing folk music on a guitar, and John Belushi picks up the guitar and destroys it. And the cinema loved it because he just smashes it and then waggles his eyebrows at the camera. And everyone says, God, he's so great. Well, a British comedian would want to play the folk singer. We want to play the failure. All the great British comic heroes are people who want life to be better and on whom life craps from a terrible height, and whose sense of dignity is constantly compromised by the world letting them down. They want to wear a tie. They're not quite smart enough to wear an old school tie because they're kind of lower middle class. They are Arthur Lowe in Dad's Army. They are Anthony Aloysius Hancock. They are Basil Fawlty. They are Del Boy. They are Blackadder. They're not quite the upper echelons, and they try to be decent and right. Everything tries to be proper. They're even David Brent from The Office. And their lack of dignity is embarrassing. They are a failure. They are an utter failure. They're brought up to expect empire and respect and decency and being able to wear a blazer in public, and everyone around them just goes, Whereas the American hero is the smart talking, he's Jim Carrey and he's Ben Stiller and he's, whoever, he just goes all the way back. They can wisecrack their way out of any situation. They win the girl, they're smarter, they've got the biggest knob in the room. The British guy arrives at the room and says, oh my God, I've left my knob behind. I haven't even got one. And in a sense, comedy is the microcosm that allows us to examine the entire difference between our two cultures. Ours is bathed in failure, but we make a glory of our failure. We celebrate it. We love the fact that every great British comic hero can go into a dictionary. He's a bit of a Basil Fawlty, he's a bit of a Captain Mannering, he's a bit of a Steptoe, he's a bit of a Baldric, he's a bit of a Blackadder, he's a bit of a this, they're characters that we recognize, all of them so flawed as to be an utter disaster. But you can't do that with American comedy. You can't say he's a bit of, who's that chap in Friends, or he's a bit of a, it doesn't really work. They're not characters at all. They're just brilliant repositories of fantastic killer one-liners.
Ooh, because
I
it
would
is
say
true.
that's very spot on. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 100% spot on. Because and what he said at the end there, it's like they're just fantastical characters of one-liners.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
That's 100% what
that's
it is.
100% it.
It's so different. And that's why it's really funny when we started our journey specifically with British TV shows, it is so different than like American comedy and American TV shows and what we're used to. So, us being in our 30s watching TV for 30 something years, and obviously, more into our adult life. So we'll even say 15 to 20 years this is what we're used to. So when we start these new shows and people are like, you guys just don't get it. Like, no, I mean, it's so different than what we know.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit to be like, oh, so this is why they do this. Oh, so this doesn't mean that, and like people say that we overanalyze things, and it's because the cultural differences are just so massive in some ways that it takes some time to get used to. And so it's not that we don't get, even I saw a comment the other day on, maybe it was like one of our later bottom episodes or something that, took us a little bit to get into. And then we were like, okay, so now I understand. And I'm like, no, like we definitely get it now. I'm sure sometimes there's more specifically a cultural reference that we don't get because we don't know it. But
Right.
it's like, it just took a little warming up because this is something completely new and foreign to us.
Like
We were in uncharted territory. So it's like, we've never watched anything like this before. This is not how American humor is. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to.
And a perfect example I'm going to try to do something a little bit more recent. Step Brothers. To me, Step Brothers was a show with Will Ferrell and I forget the other guy. Funny comedy,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Like it's a funny movie.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's filled with one-liners, but even that movie, they end out ahead in every turn. Like the ending of the movie, they're singing at the Catalina wine mixer.
Mhm.
Everything has a happy ending.
Yeah.
And what's really unfortunate, and like he was saying, no one says you're a bit of this, you're a bit of Ben Stiller, you're a bit of Jim Carrey. It's true because those are not relatable characters. No one can relate to these people.
Yeah.
There's no one out there that's like, hey, you remind me of this or you're acting like this, because they don't really flesh out those characters. They're one and done
Mhm.
characters. There's not like a really good series that, it doesn't build upon itself because it's not relatable. And that's what I think is so great about British comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a reflection of pop culture. And I feel like the American, I get the optimism and all that crap. But it's just so fantasy. It's so non-realistic that like no normal person is winning at all these things.
Yeah.
And I get that we like to
everything
root
all
for
the
our
time.
heroes, but
Mhm.
like no one's ever getting the girl. Like that's not real life. And I feel like British comedy is more reflective of real life.
Yeah. I think because I feel like we're going to have some comments being like, okay, so do you like American or British comedy more? So I'm just going to answer that before it happens. I appreciate them both completely for their differences because it's like Americans do have that optimism. And sometimes people like see that as a negative thing. I truly I don't know why. I feel like it's good to be optimistic, and it's good to want good things to happen and have a happy life, and constantly like, I don't want to say constantly like that's all you focus on, but like to strive to do better and be better and learn and grow. Like you want those things, or you should want those things. So it's like the American optimism that some people see as like a bad thing, I think is great. And like you want people to have happy endings. And no, it's not realistic, but like it's good to see. But then, British comedy it's like you kind of root for the underdog, and it's like, oh, this is so relatable, and this is me, and this is everybody that I know, and my friends and my family, and I've been in these situations, and it gives you that kind of different perspective than what we're used to on just it being real and relatable and funny. And it's like, you get a different side of things, like, oh, they're not going to get their happy ending. That's how life really is. So I think it's great that they are so different, because you can have both sides of things. And I don't think that American comedy is better, and I don't think that British comedy is better. And I think that they should be celebrated in how they are. And I think if you want something where you're like, you know what, I want something that's going to be funny, but it's going to be maybe considered a little bit more of a downer because they're not going to get the happy ending, then you can watch British comedy. And if you're like, you know what, I'm just feeling kind of down today and I need a little bit of optimism and I need to see somebody get something that they want, then you can watch something American.
Yeah.
And I think that is what makes this so interesting, is that there are those differences. And I think it's great that you can have both.
Yeah, like something just like dumb, like like Christmas Vacation is something that we always watch around Christmas time. But then, the Christmas Carol from Blackadder, are two different kind of short, like you can go either way, but both of them are comedies that I feel as though are worthy enough to be traditions.
Yeah.
And to your point about like, celebrating both different styles, I mean, some works of art are just good.
Yeah.
Right. You can't really take that away, whether it was created by an American. Like, I don't think anybody, like a director or anybody, was thinking, oh, I wonder if this is going to be a British comedy. Like,
Yeah.
you think they give a shit? They're just trying to make the funniest thing in their works of art. So, like, some of it's brilliant. There are some shows some shows and movies that I think are iconic for their own reasons, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think for us as Americans, it's just getting exposure to British comedy. I think there's definitely Hollywood's got a chokehold over the American audience that unfortunately British content doesn't really, unless you're searching for it, unless you're a YouTuber or you're searching for it, it's very difficult to get BBC content.
Yeah,
it just
for
is. Sure. I think that in my older years, I think I gravitate more towards enjoying British comedy a little bit more because I'm jaded. You know what I mean? I'm older. I'm not, my younger self would want the dumb Step Brothers comedy where the guy's, got his nutsack on a drum set,
Yeah.
or, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, like the stupid comedy there. I think my younger self appreciated, and of course I grew up with American, but as I've matured and as I've gotten older, I think I gravitate more towards British comedy just because it is more relatable and it is, I don't know. I don't know.
I will say
explain
I
it.
really appreciate like the wit in British comedy, because
Yeah.
I mean, sure, like there's a little bit in some American stuff, but British comedy has so much like wit and dry humor that I like particularly love. So it's like, yeah, I love a lot of like British comedies. There's a lot of good shows out there, like The Office. There's things that are really good that I think you can still appreciate one and the other. And kind of piggybacking off of what you said about like, nobody's going to be like, oh, I wonder if they're British or whatever. It's like, I can't say how you feel, but I like, we've had instances where somebody's like, oh, you didn't know so-and-so was British, or you didn't know this actor was Australian or whatever. It's like, I don't like assume everyone's American. I just have no idea where they're from because I don't care. To be honest with you. It's like,
God damn.
either I really like them. I can be like, oh my gosh, I can sing every word to 20 of their songs and I love it. It's like, do I know where they're from? No. Do I know their names? No. Like, I don't care about that sort of stuff. It's either I like it or I don't. And I just don't go farther into that. And I think that's the same way in some of these instances where it's like, if you're writing a new show and it's this is going to be for this audience, or this is where it's made. Is like, as long as it's good and it grips me or not, then that's like what matters to me.
And it's really unfortunate that, like, you know, for our videos, right, you see Americans react. And it's like that. And we do that because it's the only way that our videos will get pushed in an algorithm, because human nature wants to segregate. People want to be labeled. And I know it's crazy, but you see it where it's like, didn't you know he was British? No, I had no idea because I don't care. I never assumed he was anything, because it could be Chinese for all I give a shit, right? But the labeling is what makes that like so imperative. And it's kind of sick in a society where like that's, you know, where we're at. It really sucks. And I hate that we have to do it to even kind of get seen.
Yeah.
But it's the only way people would click. And it's the only way that YouTube would understand where to send our, and it goes vice versa too.
Like, who is our target audience?
Right.
And so we put this so it knows who the target audience is.
Because you should see how many people on the flip side. So you have all the American reactors, but you also have European reacts. So it doesn't just go one way. It goes both ways. And there's huge YouTubers that are doing like European reacts to US military or US this, insert US crap.
Where their target audience is Americans. Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate that that's the world we live in. But anyways, you guys, I thought that was a brilliant show. I thought that was a brilliant topic. I thought Stephen Fry nailed it on the head.
Yep.
And I agree with him 100%. And love it. I agree. All right. You got anything else to add? Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.